We're with Scott Crabtree. And Scott, I know that you do a lot of work that are lectures, but you also do workshops that are hours long.
Yep.
And those are for major corporations, for teachers groups, to conferences, and for smaller groups.
Yep.
I wish we had time to just simply say, give us the entire 3 or 4 hours of a workshop. Can you do that in a few minutes? And let's figure out, we're going to challenge our students to keep up with you.
Excellent. So 3 or 4 hours of workshop in 3 or 4 minutes goes like this. I organize around 4 themes. Themes of things you can choose to add more happiness to your life. Those 4 themes are soothe stress, practice positivity, flow to goals, and prioritize people. So let me briefly explain those. Soothe stress because, as you know, stressed out brains tend not to work terribly well in most modern situations. We are wired with the fight or flight response, so when we get very stressed out, our brains really see 3 solutions to any problem. Fight, run, or although you hear about it less because it doesn't rhyme, our default response to stress, according to neuroscience, is just freeze. Because if you shut up and stay still, the mountain lion might not see you and you might stay alive that way. Great for dealing with mountain lions and not so great for dealing with each other and the problems we run into at work and in our lives. So it's essentially inevitable that you'll get into fight or flight. I want to help people get out of it.
And you said soothe, not eliminate stress.
Exactly
Soothe.
the point.
Explain that.
Very well put, Roger, because for most of my life, I thought of stress as an evil thing.
All or nothing.
All or nothing. Stress is evil. It's toxic. It should be eliminated from our lives. I now actually teach something quite different. As soon as I've explained the fight or flight response, I say, as unhelpful as it can be, I don't want you to stress about your stress. In fact, I want you to relax about your stress, because a moderate amount of stress is actually helpful.
And you know what we call that? Benign stress.
Benign stress.
Yeah.
Excellent. Psychologists sometimes use the phrase, the word eustress. Eustress is a positive, pull you forward kind of stress. And moderate stress can be healthy and helpful for us, especially if we view it as a helpful, energizing force.
Okay.
So that pounding heart, quick breathing is preparing you for action. Awesome. That helps, and then what science says is critical is how we cope. So people obviously have some unhealthy strategies for coping with stress. According to science, 3 of the very best healthy coping strategies are physical exercise, which I know you know all about the benefits of that for the brain. Physical exercise, talking with a friend like you and I are doing. Social support is very effective support. And things like mindfulness and meditation, any intentional relaxation technique, also excellent for managing stress and coping effectively.
And not just a one-time, but having a strategy that this is a lifelong, continuing, sustainable effort to find that one that's uniquely suited for your brain and your stress needs.
Yes,
Okay.
and they can be combined. So one of my favorite suggestions to people is get outdoors, get some physical activity while talking with a friend. You're getting 3 of the best things, according to the science, will boost our happiness and therefore boost our brain function in one combination. So if you get stressed out, go on a walk with a friend, go on a bike ride with a family member, something like that. Wonderful way of coping with stress and boosting mood at the same time.
Excellent.
So that's soothing stress. Practice positivity is frankly a bunch of stuff that is pretty cliche to a lot of people. They've heard a lot of this, yeah, you should have a positive attitude. And frankly, a lot of us want to roll our eyes. Why do I include a section that makes some people want to roll their eyes when I first hear it? Because we are hearing a lot about happiness. If you watch TV for half a day, you may hear that happiness comes from a soda and a great car and a hot spouse and a prescription drug. And science can help us sort out what actually makes us happy from what doesn't. And science has a bunch of stuff that can sound pretty corny. Look on the bright side. See the glass is half full. See the best in people around you. It may sound a little cheesy. Science says it just plain works. I know you're talking with other experts about attention. Our attention is so powerful. It's a filter. It's a gate to the world. Our brains can't process everything going on around us. Our attention decides where we focus, what we take in. And when appropriate, we can focus on the good side of life,
And
the
by
good side
focus,
of
you
people.
really laser focus
Yes.
and spend some time focusing on something that brings that joy to you.
Yeah, savor it, really get into it, and positive attitude about the world, and especially people in the world, boosts happiness.
I'm going to interrupt. There
Please.
is the power of the clown nose that I have. Laura Liu is someone who does laughter yoga.
Uh-huh.
And she taught me the power of a clown nose when I did Gilda Radner Laugh Club for Cancer in Michigan a few years ago.
Wonderful.
And she said that when she was a former Ringling Brothers clown who is now one of our gerontology graduates who does laughter yoga and one laugh at a time. What she told me, Scott, was that the power of a clown nose is that if you have one and you put it on yourself, your own nose, that you can't help but see it, and it brings a smile to your face. And then as soon as you look to the person stuck in traffic next to you with a clown nose on, that person has that ripple effect. And so it's having the attitude that no matter what the challenge, you have a bright side, but you have to focus on it and look
Yes.
to that.
Exactly. And this doesn't mean ignoring problems. One of the misunderstandings about the science of happiness now, because it's become quite popular, there's a bit of reaction coming of like, oh, we can't be happy all the time. It's not all clown noses
I'm
and
sick and tired of
smiling.
the smiley face.
Yeah, all this positive attitude stuff, just go away, it doesn't work for me. Now, first of all, it doesn't work for everybody. But second of all, the science of happiness, which may be different than what some people are saying, the science of happiness does not say we should be constantly blissed out or constantly smiling. To the contrary, the most recent science of thriving, science of well-being, says you need the full range of emotional experiences. There are health and cognitive and other benefits of being happier, but we need those unpleasant emotions to be real, connected, motivated, less gullible.
And you need to learn how to deal with those unpleasant situations.
Yes.
And the emotions are
Yes.
then part of your toolkit for
Exactly.
later thriving.
Exactly. All emotions can be useful in the right context. When bad things happen to us or people we care about, the appropriate response is to feel bad. So I don't ever want someone taking a workshop I'm giving as, oh, I should be constantly blissed out. It's not healthy, it's not helpful. The science can help us choose to be happier in the same set of life circumstances while still experiencing the full healthy range of emotions.
Excellent. Okay, 3.
Theme 3 is flow to goals. It talks about the importance of progress towards clear and meaningful goals. Over 200 studies show that having goals motivates performance. So most people know that. But it's the meaning behind the goals that we sometimes lack at work and elsewhere. So why do we care? You and I hope, can directly connect to our work because we know it positively impacts people's lives. If everybody can find the meaning behind their goals, the meaning behind their work, they achieve more happiness as they make progress toward it. We tend to emphasize goal achievement so much, we miss all the progress along the way. And that's one of the lessons from the science of happiness that has shown up in multiple ways. It's better to try to get happiness frequently than one really intense moment of happiness. So it's better to focus on all the progress towards your important goals than just achieving them. And as you work towards these goals that are clear and meaningful to you, you want to get into the state of mind that psychologists call flow. That's the zone where you're completely immersed in something challenging but possible. When you get really immersed in something challenging but possible, crossword, project at work, conversation with a friend, your brain gets completely absorbed in it and focused on it, so you don't have those spare cycles to space out. We space out a lot in life, according to science, and it tends to be unhappy time. We rarely space out on, wow, how wonderful is this that I get to be with Roger and film.
And we lose track of time when we're in the flow, in those moments that you know you love what's going on. the brain can only remember 7 plus or minus 2 things.
Yep.
And the Miller's magic number tells us that when we're focusing on that thing, whether it's quilting or a sporting event or playing with your son, what you're going to do is to lose track of time to the point that someone has to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, time for dinner, time for dinner.
That's right.
Those moments were there when we were younger. And we think in gerontology work that we can have those become part of our cognitive interventions to get someone who's passionate about something
Yes.
and feed that passion by allowing them the opportunity to lose themselves in what you have for your number 3, and that's the flow
Yes.
of life. Now, Scott, when the flow occurs, when someone is really in their zone, unique to them because they love model trains or gardening, choose your own.
Yep.
But the flow would then, in our theory of neurochemical cascades, cause a cascade of the right types of chemicals for that person.
Yes.
And when that zone or flow activity is over, the chemicals stay in the brain and do some good work. And that's
Yes.
almost the theory of an apothecary within your brain, but you have to give it the opportunities to really come together.
That's exactly right. Flow, we achieve flow by making progress. There it is again, progress. You get lots of feedback, and that progress and feedback tell your brain, yep, you're playing that piece of classical music just right.
as you said.
Yes.
Not one big finish
Yes.
line,
Yes.
but it's lap after lap that you're making that incremental progress.
Yes, it's da 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 da. That was just the right note. A little more dopamine, a little more serotonin, and you build just the right conditions in
And
the
then
brain.
the next practice session tomorrow, you get 2 more notes.
Yes.
And 2 more notes. Okay.
Yes. And as you say, it builds on itself. So flow can be a self-sustaining state of mind if you have the right conditions, the right challenge, the right feedback. And I want to just briefly address what I call a cultural disease that takes us out of flow, which is multitasking.
Okay.
We feel like we can do 2 things at once. And especially younger people who do a lot of multitasking feel like, oh, I'm excellent at it. And the science, not my old man opinion, but the science says you're wrong. You cannot pay attention to 2 things at once effectively. And I like to get my audiences feeling things. So I have my audience do a very simple exercise, which you can do playing along at home if you want. I have them say the alphabet as fast as they can silently in their head, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then count from 1 to 26, and then stand up. That usually takes people somewhere between 10 and 15 seconds. Then I say, great, this time I want you to do exactly the same thing, but this time alternate, A1, B2, C3, go. And about 25 seconds later, I stop them and I say, all right, we've only got a few hours left, so let's stop there. And it gets them to feel how it takes more time when you're multitasking. And you don't get into that magical state of mind flow where you can, as you said, get immersed and start a positive cascade of brain chemicals.
That thought that you are effectively multitasking is not only a myth, but you destroy the flow because of that myth that you have. Now, you called it effectively multitasking, and that's beautiful because if you have a young person who says, I can multitask, you can convince them with science that, yes, I guess you can, but you will be ineffective. You will not be effective. You'll make mistakes and you won't even notice them. You'll be less than optimal. You're not going to give your best. But when you focus on in the flow, don't you agree that you are giving your best and you're reaching that next level that you can really say, I have mastered something, or I'm on the way to mastering?
That's exactly right. And as you know, psychology says mastery or competence, getting better at something you're good at, mastering something is very powerful, very motivating for us. And so flow can give us those opportunities to master. So it's rewarding in the moment. You're getting those releases of chemicals that we enjoy in our brain, neurotransmitters, etc., that come from the challenge of the task rather than the challenge of trying to do 2 tasks at once, which leads to errors and slowness, and as Professor Clifford Nass at Stanford liked to say, teaches people to become a sucker for irrelevancy if they multitask frequently.
I like that, a sucker for irrelevancy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Flow to Goals is about progress towards meaningful goals, really focusing on something challenging but possible, and minimizing or eliminating multitasking.
4.
Fourth theme is really the most important of all for most of us most of the time. Again, each person is different. For some people that don't enjoy positive attitude thinking, they can really immerse themselves in a challenge. But I really think theme 4, prioritize people, invest in relationships, is for almost everybody on the planet. If somebody asks me what's the one most important thing I can do, I say invest in your relationships. Because if you had to boil all the science of happiness down to one word, well, I'd be out of a job. But according to Daniel Gilbert at Harvard, that word might be social. We are social creatures, and for most of us, we need warm, quality relationships to be happy. And so relationships are not easy, right? I mean, all of us have struggled with various relationships at various points in our lives. They are hard work. You need to keep working on relationships to keep them good. But that work you do on relationships pays you back many times over in happiness and well-being.
It's really an investment.
It's absolutely an investment. Investing in relationships, as you know, we are wired with mirror neurons that help us connect to each other. So part of it is just getting face to face, making eye contact, getting some emotional synchronicity going between people.
And especially as you grow older and tend to downsize your life to a point that the fear of isolation is always hanging over. And if we can use both social media and that knowledge that human contact, not artificial contact, can be that chemical that's going to be released, that is, it's oxytocin is the one that we think is going to be the champion there. That may be a missing ingredient in someone's longevity and actually having that feeling that life is worth living, the purpose. So keep going on relationships and how that fixes with happiness, because that's a relatively new player in what the old model of be happy just for the sake of being happy and a smile. These are no longer painted smiles. These come from the heart.
Absolutely. One of the best ways to find joy and happiness in your life is to truly connect with another person. And you bring up a critical point. For elderly people, their worlds can shrink because they're less able to get to other people, perhaps, as one example or one reason of many. But part of what the science is telling us, Barbara Fredrickson is a research rock star for all of us in the happiness field. She came out with a book a few years ago, Love 2.0, that basically said you can have that loving connection with almost anyone, almost any time. So should you invest with the friends that you already have, the loved ones you already have? Of course. But you can also find those moments of emotional synchronicity with almost anyone. A security guard, a nurse, a doctor, a janitor, a kid in the hallway, a random person on the sidewalk. If you're just present and connect and make eye contact and even just exchange a few kind words, that can be a moment of connection.
Now, Scott, when you say a moment, I think I get the feeling that this doesn't have to be the security guard or the bank teller that you see every week or every day. It can be the bank guard or the teller that you see one time. And it's, again, to make eye contact. My Nana, who I talk about a lot, my only grandparent, used to tell me the only place you can really see somebody is in the black of their eyes. And if you are paying attention to anything but the black of their eyes, you're not looking at them. And I think of what you just said, that I'd never heard you explain it that way, that if that relationship is based upon that human contact, mirror neurons, and having that some electricity between two people, it's going to be look them in the eye. And you know that the one part of the human body that doesn't show the wrinkles is that iris, the color of the eye, that doesn't seem to change with age. And just behind that iris, just behind that pupil, the black, those are memories that you can then mine. And that's the memory mining that we think happens when you're just nice to somebody or compliment somebody on something they did. What does that do to the brain, Scott, when someone gets happy with a random act of compliments, that it's sincere, that you compliment somebody on or you thank them for doing something and you never see them again? Does that have an effect?
Absolutely. So again, drawing primarily on the work of Barbara Fredrickson, she largely achieved her academic fame with her broaden and build theory that basically goes a long way towards explaining how moments of happiness can broaden our awareness so we notice more in a positive mood. If I have a brief interaction with somebody on the street, right after that positive interaction, I'll notice more. I'll also think more creatively. So I broaden my awareness and I broaden my thinking. It also builds resources in the moment and for the long term. So if you and I have a nice moment of eye contact here, as we are having, I not only feel better in this moment, but when I leave the studio and am driving home,
According to the science.
According to the science, not my opinion, I'll be driving home in a better mood, noticing more, and I'll have resources that last a little while from that positive interaction. And in our case, the relationship resource that lasts a long time. Every time we have a positive interaction, we're building a better relationship with each other.
That's right. And in the brain science, that broaden and build, and when she used that, one of the takeoffs that is not within her work, but I think the build part could also be that my brain, the synapses, the connections, the memories, those are going to be strengthened and enhanced. So I think when you broaden like that and look at things in a broad sense, and then you come back to what did I gain from that? Not just that momentary reaction of oxytocin or serotonin or dopamine, but it's that you're building the structure that's a safety net as you age. You've got those resources. That gets into brain reserve and cognitive reserve.
Yes.
Anything else on 4? Because we're going to take a brain break that you want to add.
I would just say that there are a number of ways that you can invest in the happiness of people around you and your own happiness at the same time. And ironically and beautifully, one of the best ways to make yourself happy is to try to make people around you happy. And those who focus on the happiness of others around them end up being happier, both because being kind and generous is good for your own happiness, and also quite literally, if I make the people around me happy, that happiness literally comes back to me through mirror neurons. So as I tell people in workshops, if you want to get some happiness, give some happiness.
And let me throw in one thing before we take a break. Scott, the ripple effect is that when you make me happy because of a random act of compliment to me, and then I go to the next person with that feeling that science says I'm taking away something better, and I'm more likely to then compliment someone else or say thank you or do something that's going to make that person happy. I think we're onto something that could be quantified by the machinery out there, but you and I don't care. We know it works.
Yep.
I think science will catch up with where you're going. So go through the 4 and then let's wrap. What are the 4 again?
4 themes, and there are lots of specific ideas in these themes, but the 4 themes are soothe stress, practice positivity, flow to goals, and prioritize people.
That's good advice. Thank you.